That's what I take into my coaching side of it. But I think the first one for me actually developed me properly as a player, I'd say would have to be Uwe Rosler. On the aspects of, say, up until Uwe, I've had very British managers. He changed that way of thinking. I started playing in the number 10 role, or on the wide sides, coming inside into the pockets. Who heard of the phrase "the pockets" up until 10 years ago? You know, so he really changed the way I thought about football and playing football in the right way. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I feel bad not mentioning Wolves as well, because I felt that he had a really good positive impact in playing attacking football as well, and as a wide guy or an attacking kind of player, I thrived under that as well. So, but for me, if you had to say, but Hannah, if it wasn't for John, I wouldn't be a professional footballer, so I'd have to say John still.
Brilliant. Okay. Cheers. Thanks a lot for that.
Kevin, a couple of weeks ago, we had Martin Allen on here, and Martin was very complimentary about yourself, both as a player and as a person. And I'm just wondering, how unique was that period underneath Martin at that time, especially when you compare it to how professional we are today? It seems like a different era.
Yeah, it was. I've never come across anyone like him. My best friend at the time was at Barnet with him, and he said to me, he rang me, he said, "Look, I think Martin's coming." He said, "Good luck." Not in a bad way. He just said he's totally different, and he was. But it was unique in the way that he would get you to play for him. I think I've said this story before. He found out my mum was ill, and he pulled me into the office and had a go at me for not telling him. And then about 3 days later, my mum received a big bouquet of flowers and a beanie hat because she was having treatment and stuff. And he would just go over and above what he needed to do as a manager, and then he'd get you on side. And then from that moment, he had me. I'd do whatever he wanted. I'd run through a brick wall for him, and he would get to each player individually and get the best out of them. And he would do some wacky things. Some of the things, like the swimming, for instance. And I know he's spoken about it many times. I remember him, the first ever one up at Hartlepool, he was betting the squad. Do you think I'll swim this little canal thing, wherever it was? So he took his top off and stood on the side of the bank, and the bank gave way. So he had no choice but to go through with it. And then from that moment on, he took that on, and he would do all the videos that he spoke about, jumping in the Thames, and he would just motivate the players in such a different way to what we were used to. Couldn't help but sort of warm to him and just go with him on that journey. That's how good he was. His man management was absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic. Is there still room for characters like him in today's game?
I think so. I think there has to be, or else it will get boring. If everyone's the same, and of course professional, but there definitely is room, and there are people similar to him, because otherwise the game would just get completely boring. But no, he was unique, and it was a brilliant time for the club.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you very much.
Question is regarding referees, really. The club always write a bit of a write-up on the website prior to a game, giving us details of the referees previous, and how many red cards, yellow cards, penalties, and all that sort of thing he's done in previous matches. Do the players read that? Does that influence at all the way they might approach the game, given the referees previous? And also extending that almost hopefully to next year, when we'll be in the Premier League with VAR, will that change the way we play the game? Our defenders, attackers play a match, given that the cameras are watching all the time?
Okay, first off, with regards to the referees, we always, the analysis team always do a report on the opposition, and within that there is a page on the referee. And like you say, his previous games with Brentford and his last however many games as a ref. And the players, they do read it. You have to ask the players individually if they take it on board. I read it. I try and see who the referee is, and I wonder, you think from the last game, and sometimes it's good because they come to you as well, and we talk about the previous game and instances that you've debated after the game when you're walking off and stuff. So I think it's really good to be aware of that. So when you get to a stadium, you know who the referee is. You can say hello to them straight away and build that rapport. With regards to VAR next season, that's an interesting question. I don't know, to be honest. Would you play the game differently because there's cameras on you? I don't think we would need to play it too differently off the top of my head. Have you got any sort of instances or examples where you think things could be different in that respect?
Well, specifically, I think probably corners, defending corners, and the amount of pushing and and pulling that seems to go on now. I don't think we do any more, any less than anybody else. But obviously, it's something that will get picked up on, when we're defending the Cop End at Anfield. And
yeah, that's very true. The block one we do for Ethan, it seems to keep working and working, doesn't it? But I don't know. I think the referees have to let a little bit of that go, because otherwise there will constantly be fouls, even though there's VAR. There is body contact. You're allowed contact. As long as you keep your arms down and to a minimum, then I think there's not a lot of defenders or attackers in certain situations can do.
So kind of following on from the Martin Allen thing, we had him on a couple of weeks ago and he was great. More for you, Kev, here. He mentioned Sam Saunders a lot and quite kind of vibrantly. What are your kind of memories of him, and between both yourself and Sam, who are the kind of more interesting characters that you've played alongside at the club over the years?
Okay, so Sam Saunders, yes, he was a brilliant character. I caught a little bit of Martin's one actually on here. So I remember what Martin was saying. With him, he was just so raw. So raw. He could jump as high as anyone I could ever seen from a standing start. He would head anything and just get up and get on with it. And then sometimes in the middle of a game where we would say it's a 1-0 game, he'd get on the ball and do his stupid mazy run where looks like he's dancing with the ball. And me, Framo and Michael Turner would have to tuck in, and we're thinking, what the hell's he doing here? But we loved him because he'd pop up at the other end and he'd score, a really important goal. And also he'd give their number 9 one hell of a whack during the game as well, and just get on, and they wouldn't know what's happening, and it would put. So he was a top character. Regards to other characters, we've had one I probably like the most and respected the most, and is a good friend of Sam's as well, is Jonathan Douglas. I think he was exactly what we needed at that time, and I think a lot of his work went unnoticed in the success of the team on and off the pitch. He took a lot of pressure off me, because as I was sort of like the club captain at the time, he would help out, and we would have a decent respect between ourselves, and we would try and look after the changing room. And yeah, he was a character that we needed. He wouldn't be the life and soul of the changing room, but at the same time, when he spoke, you'd listen, and he was brilliant behind the scenes. He was absolutely brilliant, and he set the standards a little bit like a Roy Keane type-esque, for setting standards. And also his quality on the pitch was very, very good. He was one of the toughest players I played against when I played against him. So when he was joining, I was more than happy, because I knew how good a player he was.
You often read that the striker at Brentford isn't judged just by his goals. It's about how they work and how they bring other people into the game. Given on that, I can understand possibly why Joe Hardy never got a chance. Do you think he might thrive somewhere else and come back to haunt us? God forbid, even at Liverpool?
I don't know. I think I'm not sure, because I think on the ball he was very good. Technically, you saw the goals he scored. If you looked at his record alone, you think, why the hell are we releasing him? But his work rate as a 9, on his own as a 9, he didn't used to work hard enough. He'd be intelligent on the ball when we had it, but off it, he didn't do enough. So, listen, if he goes away and works on that, then of course he could come back and haunt us. But if he stays as it is, I don't think he will. Because I just think for our team, our number 9 needs to be more mobile in the respect of off the ball, and he's got to be the first line of the defence. And Joe wasn't quite ready at this age to do that. Okay.
Can I just ask another one? I don't know if you were there. You might have been on the bench. Give us your... Yeah, I would have asked Sam, but who's got away with it because he missed the penalty there, and no one ever talked about it. Tell us about Sheffield.
You can stitch me up if you want.
Tell us about Sheffield United in 2013, the Stroud game.
Oh, go on, Sam. You can go, mate.
Yeah, we was just funny enough having a chat about this earlier on. Yeah, that one. Ironically, I took the penalty off for Trotz that game, and that was the same season when obviously Trotz took the penalty off for Kev. So maybe I didn't set the greatest example when you look back at it. But yeah, it was just a crazy game, sending off left, right, and centre. Was it 4 penalties in the game as well?
Four penalties, 3 red cards, I think. Yeah, 13 bookings.
Oh yeah, it was a great game though. Like Bramwell Lane's always a fantastic place to play football at. The atmosphere is always good. Remember Tony? Was it Tony Craig got sent off? Was it in the first half? Was it?
Second half, Sam, because I come on for him eventually.
Yeah.
Was it, well, quite early, though, wasn't it, in the second half?
I think
was
we
that
had
the
about
one?
25 minutes. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, I think I had about 25 minutes on the pitch.
But because Clayton got sent off as well, didn't he?
That's right. And Maguire there.
Yeah, but it was just an unbelievable game. It just had everything. Penalty scored, penalty missed, last minute goals. It was just a fantastic Tuesday night under lights game of football. You probably one of the ones I can remember most from playing in, just because it was just so crazy. And you get back into the dressing room after the game, and just sit there and just go, oh, that was mental. It was just one of the ones where you just can't understand why. It was just absolutely crazy from start to finish, and you just sit down and you're just like, oh, I'm just done. I'm absolutely zapped. But it was a fantastic game, and I say, obviously, we're still speaking about it now because it was essentially just a draw. But no, as I say, a fantastic game, and it just showed that the spirit that the boys had, down to 9 men, 2-1 down away at Bramwell Lane, and still managed to get a point.
Yeah. Kieran, any other memories?
Well, my memory, I remember Tony getting sent off, and I remember Uwe eventually saying to me, "Get ready." So I went to warm up down the touchline, and he starts screaming at me, saying, "No, you're going on." So I remember me and him effing and blinding at each other as I'm going on, and it was just as typical Uwe. He was so intense in that moment, and then so we've had a massive argument on the sideline. I've gone on, we've managed to get the point, and we come off the pitch and we just cuddle, and then it's all just forgotten about, because that's all it was in the moment. That's my biggest memory. But yeah, that was a crazy game. And again, coming back to the refs, we see Keith Stroud quite often now. So I sometimes speak to him about that game, and he just laughs about it and just says he lost the plot that day. But there was a lot, but he did. He lost the plot. We all knew it, and it's just, again, you can build that rapport with the ref. You can have that laugh and joke with him now.
Yeah, Sam. One last thing. You say that John Still and Dagenham didn't play much football. You could have scored 10 against Brentford in that game, the 3-1 game, just when we went up. Absolutely obliterated us.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. We played really well that day, and I knew, previous to that game, I knew that I was probably going to come and sign for Brentford as well. So it's quite a strange one, playing and scoring. But as I say, because you could have gone up that day, as I remember. But it was quite us, Dagenham. We had such a great team spirit, and obviously Kev got to know Danny Foster and Ben Strevens off the back of that. Like, the boys were a really good bunch of lads, and we was almost like, come on, let's just ruin their promotion party. And it was just, that was the kind of characters they had in the dressing room there. And we played really well that day. I just don't think Brentford turned up. We didn't turn up that day at all, really. We started really well, but don't worry about that. The first result I looked out for on a Saturday afternoon was you away at Darlington. That was the first result I was looking out for, because obviously my decision was made. I was coming to Brentford, and I was just praying they obviously got promoted. And obviously coming in the dressing room on a Saturday and seeing that you got the result that you needed to go up, I was obviously delighted as well. So I remember that game Tuesday night. Was it Tuesday night under lights?
Tuesday night.
Nice night. We played really well. Good game. I'm just delighted that obviously it went up on a Saturday away at Darlington, and that's probably a better one to go up, Kev. Anyway, away journey back home from Darlington rather than Tuesday night at Dagenham. At least you got a nice evening with the boys in the train home and a few beers.
Well, no, the problem was, Sam, because we lost at Dagenham, Scotty didn't bring up everyone to Darlington, and so I was injured with my knee. So I was sat at home watching Soccer Saturday when we got promoted. So not ideal, mate.
But all right, well, the boys that were on that train, I bet they had a great train.
By all accounts, they did. Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah. Thanks for scoring it off.
You came up, well, the team came up by coach that day, because they came up by Griffin Park, but only a few made it, I think. So a lot got dropped off at service stations, etc. on the way. But
yeah, I think they did. Yeah. It
was a good day, and thanks for ruining it for us, Sam. Brilliant.
No, so I just made you wait a little bit more, just teased you a little bit.
Right, okay, as you say. Right, Sam.
Hi, thank you for organising this, Trevor. Thanks, Kevin and Sam, for your time. My question's about the difficult process of releasing players from the B team, especially because they're so young. How difficult is that for you as coaches? How in advance do you let these individuals know? And is there a duty of care that we have to provide these players once they're released?
Yeah, I'll give this a quick answer, Sam, then you can go. Yeah, it's extremely difficult. The first time I had to do it, I didn't know how to do it. I had to sit down and effectively tell this lad that's his dream over at Brentford. You know, it was really difficult because you build up a relationship with these people, these guys. You care about them as people, and you don't want to harm them, but at the same time, you have to be realistic. So it's really, really difficult. And with Brentford, we have Alan Still, who obviously works with us. When he was working with me with the B team, he would be the guy that would take them on and try and find them other clubs or other things to do if we didn't think they were going to quite make it professionally. And yeah, of course, we have a duty of care, and that's what we do. We go over and above to make sure these players are okay and give them the opportunity to do stuff that they want to do. You know, if they're not going to stay, or even if they do sign, we give them the opportunity to do courses and things like that. But it's also down to that individual to want to be able to do it. So we don't want to force things onto them at certain times. You know, but we want them to come and we tell them what's available, what's on offer, and then it's down to them to come back to us. But to release a player is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, and it doesn't get easier the more you do it. At times it gets even harder because you build up proper relationships with these players over a year, 2 years. You get to know them, you get to know their home life, and it's really, really difficult.
Yeah, so just for me, we didn't quite get up to that stage of the season where we was going to obviously let players go. So we've had to have these conversations slightly different than what we'd normally do in different circumstances. But I think that at the beginning of the season, the pre-season, we sat down with the boys and we was honest. We were saying, first and foremost, we want to make you better men. We want you boys, now you're coming in here, you're going to have a great 2 or 3 years, or however long you are here. Some of you's only going to be here a year, but we want to first and foremost make you a better person and now a man. For when you come out of here, you're ready for the real world. Whether you make it into the Brentford's first team or not, it's going to see that you can only look at the previous seasons and you can see how difficult from each squad that's going to be. But we'll do our best to make you have a career in the game, and if not, obviously, like Kev alluded to, is have a career somewhere else, part-time, and hopefully, let's say, with the qualifications and the college courses they do alongside the B team role, they can set themselves up in the best possible place they can be in. But yeah, it's one of the ones we was having discussions at the moment of players we was going to keep and players that we was obviously going to let go, and that's down to us as well to use our contacts and come out of the game. I speak to a lot of managers and coaches that I played under and stuff, if they need any youngsters to come out to train or to go on loan to go and show them, showcase themselves. Because just because they haven't got a future at Brentford does not mean that they can't go down a couple of steps to come back up again. It's just not their time right now. So as long as you explain the reasons why you're letting them go, so that they can go and work on them. Like I alluded back, I spoke to obviously Andy Scott about, I didn't really know why I wasn't playing. He let the boys know why they've been released. But we have meetings with them all the time anyway. We speak to the boys in close quarters very, very often, and we explain to them their weaknesses and their strengths. And so it's not going to be a shock if we say we're going to let you go because of that, because that's been spoke about the last 12 months, 18 months or 2 years time leading up to that. So it's a process that we try and improve the boys, firstly as people, because we think that's important at Brentford Football Club, but then obviously as professionals, and try and get them in the best possible state if they ain't going to get a contract at Brentford in the Football League or in the conference. I hope that answers your question.
That's brilliant answers, guys. Thank you. I'm glad we have such a compassionate approach. I was reading an article, I think at United, where some players found out they had been released from social media. So I'm glad that there's a much better approach than other clubs. Thanks a lot, and thanks for that.
We've already spoken to the guys, and if, like say, we've already said as well, if they're struggling to find a club, we've always had the policy if they can come in and keep training and keep them fit until they find an opportunity, because we just wouldn't want to just let someone go and just say thanks but no thanks, good night, because they've been good with us, they've been a good professional, and they've helped the other players around them, so it will be fair.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for your answers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Nice uplifting question there. Thank you. Lee.
I've got someone here getting changed. Here we go. Look what's going on here.
I scrabble again. Christ almighty.
It's a follow-on question, really, from what you were just talking about transfers. Mainly to Kevin, but a question for Sam as well, really. Kevin, thanks for your loyalty to the club over all these years. When the transfer window opens, as supporters, we always get a bit nervous on who's going to, possibly go. Thankfully, you stayed for all these years, but let's not call it regrets, but any offers you had as transfers that, in hindsight, you wonder what would have been with someone else, maybe? I think Liverpool was one of the rumours. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, no,
Oh, Liverpool, shit up.
Give me a chance, Sam. That was a load of rubbish, unfortunately. I wish I could claim it wasn't. Do you know what? It never got to a stage where it was down to me to choose. There was rumours a few times. I think probably at times where I signed contracts where if I didn't, something else might have happened. But there was always reasons why I signed those contracts. So yeah, there was never a time where it was put to me by the club, do I want to go here, etc. So yeah, it was always really out of my hands.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. Sam, any offers, interesting offers in hindsight you wonder, what would have been?
The only time really was when, I don't know if you remember in League One when we was flying high, and I went on a run. Me and Wolves got the player and the manager of the month, and that was in December, coming up to January. So obviously the window was open, and I hit the window in a bit of form. I know there was a few sniffs flying around at that time, but I got injured anyway during that period, which would have put a stop to it anyway. But I just think that at my age, when I signed for Brentford at 24, 25, the club was in such a progressive manner anyway. I knew my best chance of getting into the Championship would have been going up via promotion through Brentford. So I knew that every year I could just see improvements. If the club wasn't improving every year, I obviously would have tried to move and so forth. But I was just so happy and so content in what was going on and felt so at home at the club that I'd never really felt that I ever wanted to push anything anyway.
Great, interesting. Thanks for all you do, guys. Thanks for your time today as well. It's really interesting. Really good afternoon.
Thank you.
Cheers, Lee. Jamie.
Hello, Trevor. Thanks for doing this again. Hello, Kevin, Sam. Hope you're keeping well and staying safe. Question for both of you. As you two have both made the transition from player to coach, in your respective squads, which players can you see making that same step next?
Well, one that stands out for me, Christian Norgard. I think he's an extremely intelligent footballer, like a lot of them are, but just his calm manner as well, and the way he treats people and the way he is with people, which I think the coaching, like I said earlier, the man management is so key, and how you treat people and get your point across. And I think he's the one that stands out for me in the way he acts all the time, even in the heat of the battle. He's calm, he's considerate, and I think he could definitely go on and be a good coach. But I'm sure most of them could, but just the way he is, just the way he conducts himself and how he controls his emotions, I think he's probably one of my prime examples.
Brilliant. And Sam, I might be a bit early for you, but anyone standing out?
Yeah, we've got a couple. We've got some born leaders. You can see even at the young age of 18 and 19, lads that demand from their teammates in training every single day. Love to see, like, they just always at it, always pushing themselves, always pushing others. And like Kev said, considerate of teammates as well. I say that there's a couple like I say, Nathan Shepherd, who always pushed himself, and you can always hear him in goal, always pushing the lines, always communicating to his back four, communicating to the midfielders and even the strikers. You can tell him to press and where to press. So even for a goalkeeper, his tactical knowledge is very good, and he's not afraid to use his voice. And another one for me would be Kane O'Connor, the centre half, who's come in and done a lot of training with the first team. And Kev sees what a good attitude, and no matter what standards he gets to, whatever level he gets to, he will drain every last inch of his ability out of his professional football career, because he will put everything every single day on a training pitch, and he's a credit to himself and his family.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Kevin, what do you find more rewarding, winning as a player or winning on the coaching team? So the likes of the feeling that you had when we won 3-2 against Millwall with a last-minute goal. So would you have got more? Would it be more rewarding winning as the team or winning as the coaching team?
I think it has to be on the pitch. I think as a player, because you're sweating, you know, you're working extremely hard physically and mentally for those 95 minutes. I think, yeah, just on the pitch just beats being off it. But off the pitch is as close as I can get, I think, to that feeling of winning. But it's the best feeling in the world when you win a game in the last minute and the whistle goes. That is the best feeling you can have as a player. And then, yeah, I think very closely followed by being a coach. But I'd have to say a player just.
Okay, thank you.
Kev, you were captain for some time, and one hears stories about the things that captains have to do, amongst other things, collecting the fines. So
Yeah.
I wondered what was the best reason or the funniest reason you ever had to collect a fine, and then what was the best expenditure of those fines at the end of the season?
Well, okay, so the best expenditure would obviously be probably a Christmas do. And this is probably a few years ago where you'd just go out and you'd have a big kitty between everyone, so you wouldn't have to worry about money and you can spend it on obviously having a few drinks and a bit of fun with everyone. So that would be the best expenditure. The best reason to fine someone, nothing really that interesting. It's usually just lateness and bits and pieces. I'm trying to think as I speak now. No, there's not too much, unless Sam can think of an example, but there's not too many. Just where people.
It had sometimes when the worst trainer of the week would get fined, or nutmegs used to get fined. That used to all that different football clubs had different fines lists. Just obviously you get all the usual ones, but definitely we used to get as well. There was one as well that we used to. I don't know why it come about, but if you swore in like a retaliation, say someone was giving you some shit and you told your teammate to F off, you'd get fined for that and stuff like that. So we used to love that after a game. Say, remember when so-and-so had a bite up? That's a fine, that kind of bit. But yeah, just the normal lateness, punctualities, dirty boots, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's one for Sam, and we've all seen the picture, but can you give us the story behind the car cleaning?
Oh, my goodness. I thought this one won't ever die. And we all know why it won't die, don't we? Because a certain individual keeps putting a photo up on Twitter every 6 months.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. But, we'd done the fancy league, the dream team kind of thing. All the boys put money in. And the forfeit for the last place had to clean the first place car naked. So I improvised a little bit. But yeah, so all in a bit of team spirit, all in a little bit of banter. I never one to not do a forfeit. I thought it'd be good for morale, good bit of banter, and obviously regret it now, of course. But no, it was all good fun.
That glove done you wonders as well, mate.
That was the smallest glove you've ever seen in your life.
In your time at the club, which was the hardest player or the hardest players that you played alongside?
Okay, I would probably say that the hardest players that I played alongside would be Sam Saunders, as we've spoken about.
You say me then?
No, not you, mate. Definitely not you. Just clarify, Sam Saunders. Just because he would just run into a brick wall and he'd just get up and get on with it. And also Ibrahimo Sonko as well. He was one of the strongest men I'd come across, and just the size of him, and you wouldn't want to mess with him. He's the nicest, softest guy you ever come across. On the pitch, he was hard as you like, and you'd want him on your team.
Yeah, he was massive. Mine would probably be Tony Craig, anyone that wears them boots throughout his whole career.
What about when he changed his boots? Remember, for those 3 games?
He changed his boots, these black boots, to these white Umbro specials. New sign, he come from Millwall, thought he can get away with white boots at Brentford. 3 games, about 14 own goals, changed back to his black boots, didn't he?
Oh, he got so much.
Tony would be one of them, and I think you've got to look at Jonathan Douglas as well. He played 40 games a season with no cartilage in his knees. He just used to ice his knees every week, get on with it, ask him if it was all right. He'd just growl at you, say something. He wouldn't even understand what he said and just get on with it. So I say Dougie would have to be up there. He just wouldn't show any weakness and he'd just get on with it. So yeah, I think probably TC and Dougie for me.
Thanks very much. Cheers, David.
Favourite goals, chaps? Favourite goals you both scored? I'll tell you if you're wrong.
Okay. My favourite goal, probably because I'd never be able to hit it again, would be the Wrexham goal at home.
Wrexham all the way. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, that was my favourite.
It was out of nowhere that game, wasn't it? And then Wallop. What was it?
Yeah,
89?
I know. I'll never be able to do that again. Never ever.
Beautiful. I was just leaving the ground because my lad was little then, and we're leaving a little couple of minutes earlier. We both cocked our necks round, and then we saw it. Beautiful moment, lovely moment.
Yeah, no, it was.
I think for mine, everyone's gonna have to, let's say, the Swindon one, weren't they? Obviously, where
Fulham.
For me, yeah, I love the Fulham one, but I think the majority of people that speak to me about the goal was when I fell over against Swindon. I think that's just the one where I don't think anyone's going to forget that. So, yeah, personally, as a personal moment and just the finish and so forth, I did enjoy the Fulham one. But I think as a memorable one, and people speak to me about the most, would be the Swindon.
Yeah, because the Fulham one to me, just the ball come to you, and I thought, go on, put that away, and then as soon as you dinked it, we could tell it was in, and we're in the Bramo. It must have been a lovely moment for you guys.
It was an amazing finish, wasn't it? It was really, really good finish.
Yeah, it wasn't that good. No, it was brilliant. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Cheers, Matt. Jim.
Hello there, Kev. Hi, Sam.
How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Thanks for taking the time out to do this. Just a quick one for both of you. You're head coach of the first team, and you can bring two players back from the past that you've played with to today's squad. Obviously, they're not going to get in the first team, but to the squad, who would you pick?
Cool.
Good question, that, isn't it?
Oh, what a question that is. Two players that I played with. Okay.
What makes me that difficult?
I'll go first. I'd bring, I don't know how popular this would be, but I'll bring Tarky back. I think James Tarkowski was superb for us. I think obviously he's shown the quality that he's got now, obviously going to get an England cap and stuff. I know the way he left wasn't the best, and I think he'd hold his hands up with that. But I think there's no denying what a good footballer he was. And the other one, for me, technically, was probably the best that I played with was Alex Pritchard. Felt he had moments in him, just unbelievable qualities that you can't really, like Kev mentioned earlier, at this level you can't coach. They all know how to play football, but he had bits that were just at the top call, at the top bins, where you just literally cannot chew. You can't coach it. You can't describe it. It just happens natural, and he naturally had just ability with the football. So I'd say them two.
Okay.
God, it's tough. Jota, I would love to see Jota come back.
Right.
Just because of his quality, his individual quality on the ball. I suppose in the squad now, ideally, be another attacking player. Maybe, I suppose I didn't really play him, but maybe Andre, just to supplement. I'm thinking more along those lines to supplement the squad.
Right, yeah. And if, obviously, when you're waiting in the tunnel there to go out, was there ever one player that you look at and on the other side and think, not him again? Who would that be?
The one I used to love, there was one, what was his name? Is it Michael? What was his name? The lad who played for Leeds and then he went on to Coventry. Is it Michael Lear, the midfielder? What was his name? I used to love playing against. No. The Irish midfielder, Sam, left footer. Oh, I can't remember his name. But he'd be the one we'd try and get each other first in the game. So the first one to hit the other, that sort of thing. I'd have that of Alan McCormack as well. We knew what we were going to do. It would be who could get who first. And it wouldn't be, no, not him again. I actually think, right, here we go. We're going to have a right good game here.
Yeah.
So I used to love those challenges. And we just walk out at the end and shake each other's hands and get on with it. But we knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, brilliant.
Mine was probably there's a couple. One used to do my head in. He was so. I think he's still going now. He's about 50. Kevin Ellison. He used to drive me mental, that geezer. He would not stop. Scouser, but he's still going, fair play to him.
Yeah.
And Doyle. Remember the centre midfielder Doyle, Coventry?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Michael Doyle. That was my one, Sam. Yeah. Doyle.
He was an absolute nightmare. He'd kick me from. I played against Sheffield United when they come down to Griffin Park, and I had to come off after 25 minutes. I had 2 dead cards and a dead quad. I was running around in a circle. I couldn't move because he just booted the life out of me. So him, I remember in particular. Yeah, he definitely he wasn't one that I enjoyed playing against.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time, lads, and stay safe.
And you, Jim.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Take care.
Cheers, Jim. John Starsfield.
Trevor, thank you. Sam, first game at Griffin Park under Warburton, the opposition get a corner, and you came out to the left, the centre line on the left wing, and I can't remember who, somebody came out to the centre line on the right wing. And around me, there was a sort of surprise that we'd gone for having 10 in the penalty area while they were taking a corner to having 2 on the halfway line. Is that an illusion, or is that something that was a deliberate change from Uwe to Warbs?
Yeah, I think that it was for a couple of reasons. You probably thought that what's the point of them being in our box? Let's take, because now if 2 goes up, they're going to have to. Well, normally teams bring 3 back rather than us being in the box. Then all 3 could be potentially in our half. It gave us an avenue to counter attack as well, and Wolves was very much in the camp of attacking football. He liked to attack first, so it set out a precedent on how we went to play. And as attacking players, I'd much rather be left at the halfway line and in the box as well. So it gave the opposition something to think about. So yeah, it was definitely just a shift in philosophy of how
across the whole team,
yeah.
Across the whole philosophy.
Yeah, because I think if Uwe at the time was on the side of more organisation and more everyone knowing their roles, whereas Wolves was a bit more on the side of going out and attacking teams and outscoring teams.
And that suited the squad at the time.
Well, I say, as an attacking player, you loved it.
Cheers, Trevor. Hello, lads. All right, thanks for doing this. Appreciate your time. It's a quick one, really, mainly based on Sam. Obviously, you've got a bit of a notorious song that is sung on the terrace about you. Have you had any awkward moments where you've had to pre-brief a family member or a new girlfriend about what's been going to be sung on the terrace and everything, and to give it a heads up? And also, just generally for both of you, have you had any songs on the terrace that you've that's tickled you, and whilst you've been sitting on the bench and whatever, and you've heard it from the stands?
Do you want to go first, Kev?
Yeah, I've got just a couple. I got not so long ago. I think more. Yeah, when I was on the coaching staff, I got called Philip Schofield, which I burst out laughing. It was away somewhere. I can't remember what stadium, but so, I think it might have been Luton actually. Just recently when we played them away, someone told me to sit down, Philip Schofield. And to be fair, I had to turn around and had a right chuckle because that did make me laugh.
I'm using that now. I'm having that.
Oh, mate, but that was a good one for me. But yeah, mine was just no actual songs about me, but more just my grey hair and stuff. Get called granddad at times and things like that. So it's I just have a chuckle to myself, and I did find it quite amusing. Yeah,
Sean, getting to the song. Not brief. I just have to probably explain that I don't actually use fake tan. Was probably the bit of the song the most that I'd like to just get out of it. That is definitely fabrication of the truth. Yeah. But no, all the family members, they love it. They have a bit of banter about it and stuff. And no, it's nice to say I still go to a couple of local pubs around here, and sometimes they get brought up again, which is just all good fun. And it's just something that's really special about this football club, that you can have that little bit of banter with the fans and stuff, and it's just all fun. And I say it's really enjoyable, and I like getting involved in it as well. I say it's all in good humour, and that's what football should be about. A song that I had that I laughed when I was playing was when I was at Wickham and my hair grew a bit longer and that. And I was away somewhere, and they was just singing "You're Just a Shit Gareth Ainsworth," and it was, for me, I just thought it was brilliant, because it's obviously Gareth being the manager and stuff, and the boys giving me stick. So I actually had a chuckle during the game during that one. So that was probably one that sticks in my mind recently.
My question is really, outside of the local derbies, is there any clubs that you felt really disliked playing Brentford as a club, or even our style? And the reverse is, which clubs did you really not enjoy, getting on the coach and playing away at, any like northern clubs or wherever it is, outside of, Fulham, QPR? It's not the obvious derbies. So it'd be which club you felt didn't like playing Brentford, and also which club did you not enjoy going to away? That's to both of you, by the way.
Yeah, I'll go. I think I didn't enjoy going to Chesterfield's old stadium, purely because of the size of the changing room. It was the tiniest changing room, and Colchester's. Them two were the only ones. Not that I didn't enjoy playing them, but just the changing rooms themselves were so small. It was like, oh, here we go, and we get to get changed in the corridor and things. And I can only imagine what teams feel like coming to us nowadays, with probably bigger entourages now, and coming to our stadium. So they were the only two that I thought you'd have in your head, oh, the changing rooms are absolutely tiny, so it's going to be a little bit all over the place. And it's one other thing, probably one team that I played against, which it's never happened before, was during the game. We played Port Vale the season we got promoted from League One. I think it was Port Vale. Yeah, and I was playing under Warbs. That's right. Yeah, because someone was injured. And one of their players said to me midway through the first half that they couldn't cope with us. But and it was going to be our season, and that was during the first half of that game. Literally said to me in a break that they couldn't cope with our team, and we were going to get promoted. And I've never had that before.
That's first game of the season as well, wasn't it? Or was it second game?
No, I think it was in January, Sam.
Oh, that was first game of the season. That was wasn't it? Yeah. How have you not mentioned Accrington Stanley being one of the worst grounds to go at, mate?
Yeah. Well,
Aki, what a cause.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
My God. That is Aki Stanley for me. The worst place. I have one shower and it's freezing cold. And maybe Yeovil as well. Yeovil away as well. I have nightmares every time I play there. I get subs every single time I ever go there. So I'd say Yeovil and Aki for me.
Like a cow field, wasn't it?
Oh, horrible.
And was there any grounds that you felt, that the fans really, you got there and it was, intimidating? Was there any in terms of the fans, probably as well as the players? I remember you mentioned Chesterfield, and I always thought, do you remember their centre back Blatherwick or something?
Yeah, the big yeah, I remember him. Yeah,
big massive guy. He just liked to bully people all over the pitch, didn't he? And I'd hate to be playing him at his own pitch and stuff.
I think it was weird though, because you'd have teams that would try and do that. So Millwall would be the obvious one. You go to the Den, you'd be lining up in the tunnel, and you're waiting just for the ref to walk you out, and they start shouting, like, you got Danny Shittu next to you as captain. I was captain. He starts screaming, "Come on, Wall!" The wall, and starts hitting the wall and stuff. And you just look at him, and it wouldn't intimidate. I hope it might intimidate some people. I'm sure it didn't intimidate Sam, but you just sort of laugh, and it'd sort of give you even more reason to go out there and put a good show on. So I used to love those challenges. I used to love going to those places. Rather than be intimidated, you'd love it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I'm similar to Kev. That kind of stuff, that's what you become a professional football player for. So for me, they're the ones that I really enjoyed. I've got to remember the song as well at Sheffield Wednesday when you come out and hi Sheffield Wednesday, like that kind of stuff before a game. I'm buzzing because they're just singing it about, and the atmosphere's good, and Kev's similar to myself. If you don't get up for those games and those challenges, then what are you a professional football player for? And I'd much rather that than a game with no atmosphere, no needle, no challenges and stuff. I'd much rather the other way around with the intensity and the atmosphere.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. I think Martin Allen, I remember he said, going back to him a couple of weeks ago, he really enjoyed, intimidating, getting on the nerves of the away fans, and where they absolutely hated you because then you've got something a bit above them, then haven't you? You've got something on them.
Well, he'd done that. He'd done that once. If you remember, we went to Hillsborough in I think his first season, and we just finished our warm up. So we're down our end with our fans, and he made us run through their warm up, run across their 18-yard box, and clap their fans in front of the home goal up at Hillsborough. Yeah. And obviously, imagine the pelters we got for that. But that's something that he loved, and what it was, he got us used to the noise.
Yeah,
he got us used to that noise, and then I think that day, I think we drew 1 each. They scored in the last minute. I think Dean Smith scored, believe it or not, a scissor kick, if you remember that, or a side volley, if you remember that game. But I remember Martin doing that, and I just thought it was a bit of brilliance for him, just to get us used to the noise and the atmosphere before the game started.
Oh, yeah, I did. I went to that. We had a good. I don't know if they've got a couple of Bees fans on this that I know, and we stayed up in, I think, Stocksbridge, and so we had a couple of jars before the game, and that got everyone. Our end went ballistic. We were all singing and shouting then because we saw what was happening, and it was great. It was great. It was good fun. Yeah,
just one of his things, but yeah, it was a brilliant idea.
Thanks very much, everyone involved, for this as well. Cheers.
No worries, mate.
Yeah, hello, chaps. Thanks for joining us. Kev, who would you put your money on, Thomas Franks versus Lee Johnson in the ring?
I put all my money on Brian Reamer. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was an interesting one. That was. I think that was Lee Johnson just trying to deflect away from the actual result and the performance, so to speak. But yeah, Thomas is very mild-mannered, but it takes a lot for him to go. But he nearly went that day. He would have been fully justified as well.
Brian did look a bit scary as well, actually. He looked like he was hunting him down afterwards on the pitch.
Yeah, but Brian's like his security guard when it comes to those situations, which I think is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. No, I heard on the cues there a few things that Mr. Johnson might have suggested about one of our players. So not surprised Thomas got a yum.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it was just Lee just trying to deflect away a little bit, which is kind of understandable, I suppose. But there you go.
Good man. Cheers.
No problems.
Hi, Kev. Hi, Sam.
Hi.
Kev, Sam, long careers at Brentford. Lot of players you played with at Brentford. Give us your one, if you were in an after-dinner speech, who you'd be telling the funny story about. Who's the one that comes to mind? Who's the funniest one? Who's the one that's the funny ha-ha or the funny peculiar player you played with?
I have George Bancoli. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
He was a lovely, lovely guy. So one day he'd come in on a Sunday with donation thing. So he'd be asking us to donate to his church, which was absolutely fine, donate. And then 2 days later, he'd be coming in with dodgy DVDs to sell. So I just thought it kind of contradicted itself a little bit, So he's very religious. He's a lovely guy. I wouldn't mess with him because, he's like massive, wasn't he? Big, strong, powerful, lovely, lovely guy. But he just contradicted himself. And he'd second-hand cars as well. And he's just a bit of a wheeler dealer. And I just found him very, very interesting character.
Sam?
Mine, for interesting character, would have to be George Saville. He was an absolute live wire. He's not the sharpest tool in the box, but good lad, good fun. Do anything for a bit of banter. I mean, absolutely anything. See some of the stories.
Got a good story about him, Sam. Come on.
I've got stories about Savs.
But one that you can print on here, or one that you can publicise on here.
Probably not. They're all X-rated, and he'll never get a football club again. So I'll probably have to wait until he retires before I can start getting them out. But yeah, he was one of them lads that he was so annoying, but so funny at the same time. And I say he still winds me up now. He texts me so often. He's just to annoy me, and he's like, he knows what he's up to, but he's a biggest pest ever. But he's just a real good lad as well. And say the boys have got really. I say sometimes Kev will agree with me. There's boys that come in on loan don't really get up to scratch with the culture or with the lads, and they're in it for themselves. But that season, we had some real good loan players. I know Adam Forshaw was one of them that come in and become maybe obviously permanent. But he was another one that come in on loan, and Bidders and Savs and that. They all really got on board with what we was doing. They was a fantastic bunch of lads, and so I still speak to them now.
Thanks a lot, Kev, for doing this.
All right.
Good to see you, Kev.
All the best, Mick, and you, mate.
Just talking about loan players, Kev. What happened with Bentino?
What do you mean? Where is he now? Do you mean, or just what?
What happened with him at Brentford?
Do you know? I have no idea. He come in. It's just I don't know. I don't know where he come. I know he come obviously from Portugal, but I don't know what the deal was or anything. And he could score a goal. He could hit the ball very, very hard, but that was about it. He was didn't have too much more about him, unfortunately. So that's why I didn't really get a look in.
But he was the most improved player on the Christmas night out in Dublin. We didn't hear from him. We didn't speak to him all season. We didn't really get much from him.
That's what I mean.
Just to go to training, turn up. But that weekend he was world class. So fair play to him for that. He'll go in my memory for being top drawer in a Christmas do. But that's about it.
Right, thanks very much. Mike Lumley.
Hi, Sam, you managed to drop off last time I was about to ask you the question. So give us the backstory behind that Swindon free kick and what was some of the banter going on between the first attempt and the second attempt?
It's just something I've never done before and something I've never done since. As you imagine, if you can imagine planting the football to go and kick it, and I'm having the right and my left foot. As I went to plant my right foot, the stud of my right boot got caught inside my left heel. So as I went to, I've never done it before, never done it since. As I went to lift my left foot, obviously I couldn't because my right stud was in it. So I've just face planted into the floor. Obviously the crowd's laughing, the home fans are laughing, the away fans are laughing. I've got the boys looking at me going, "What are you doing?" I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness." Jake Bidwell's on the other side saying, "Shall I take it now?" And I'm like, "There's not a hell. I've got a score list. There's no way I can let you take this after me falling flat on my face." And obviously, luckily, it went in. So I've seen them just done a pretend fall over in front of their fans. I think Adam Forshaw done one as well. And it was a real nice moment. That was a top game as well, if I remember. There was loads of goals in that game. Real top game, Boxing Day. But yeah, it's just a freak thing that's never happened before and never happened since. But I say it's a good talking point.
Thanks, Sam.
No worries.
Cheers, Mike. Raj, you had another question?
Hey, yeah. How much time do we have left?
Well, not. Go on then. Doesn't matter. Carry on.
Right, okay, let's go.
Barbecue's starting soon, so if you want to like
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about both of you. What sort of decisions does an assistant manager make, and the difference between the first team coach as well? And is there anything like you've done that has impacted a game like really significantly? Like, you know, just an overview of what you do at the club.
Okay, what do you mean day to day, or do you mean on a match day, or?
I'd say day to day.
So day to day. So I'll give you a typical example of a day. Would be in myself. So this is with the first team. I'd be in a 8 o'clock meeting with Thomas, Brian, and the other staff. We would discuss training. We would discuss who's doing what Thomas wants to get out of the session, and what roles and responsibilities he's given us on that day. And then the medical lot will come in. They'll discuss who's training, what numbers we have. Then we'll go out and train. And then in the afternoon, we'll probably reflect on the training session. Sometimes look at clips, see if we got what we wanted out of the training session. And depending on what day of the week it is, if it's leaning into a game, you then would look at the opposition. Say this is a Tuesday now. We're looking at the opposition for the Saturday. We're discussing clips from them with the analysts. And then again, we'll discuss the game plan, what we think we need to focus on leading into that game, which will all have input. And then Thomas will make the final decision. And then obviously we'll implement that on a Thursday and Friday. And then during the actual match day, obviously take charge of the warm-up, myself and Brian. Thomas does obviously the pre-match meeting and then does what he needs to do in the changing room. And then during the game, just give my opinion to Thomas as and when he needs it, what I think subs we should do, and whatever else he needs, really.
All right, that's great.
Does that make sense? Anything else?
Yeah. Anything that you've particularly pointed out to Thomas that has made a direct impact on the game? Like a substitute, a key
I think it'd be harsh for me to say, "Oh, I said this, we done this, and we won," because that's not the case. I would give my opinion. Sometimes he goes with it, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, so it's. Right. There has been times where I've said stuff, but also I'm not sure if he's thinking that, or Brian might have said the same thing as well. So it's not one of them where I've just said this amazing thing that no one else had thought of, and he's gone and done it. You know.
All right. Cheers, Kevin.
Thank you.
Cheers, Raj. Greville.
Hi. What happened and what was said after the Stevenage game, and did it have any impact on the rest of the season? Hello? Did you hear
go
it or
on, I
not?
can hear you. Yeah, sorry, which Stevenage game? Which one?
That was in the promotion season. We threw a game away. That was the one when David Button got dispossessed by their striker. We lost 2-1, and apparently there was a players' meeting afterwards, and then we went on a long unbeaten run. But is that just myth or fact?
Is that when Harley Dean got covered in Yakult?
Yeah, I wasn't there, Sam. So this is on you, mate.
Yeah, to be fair, Harley Dean got covered in some Yakult and a few other bits and bobs. A few things went flying around in the dressing room. But it's good. Fair play. The boys cared. The management cared. Out in the open, a few things were said, a few harsh things were said. So be it, it's football. Sometimes home truths need to be said, and the response of the boys showed it all. And I say I'm an old favourite in that. Sometimes I feel that as professionals and footballers and that, you get a bit too, you can't be spoken to like this and that. But sometimes it's just pure emotion, and you take the tactics out of the game, and it's just about how much do you actually want it. And that was that incident, and it could have fell, and the Yakult couldn't have hit a better person than Harley Dean, so I was delighted.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, does that? All right, I'll stop because there are others want to talk. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Cheers, Greville. I just got one final question. Obviously, there's talk of the season starting. It's pretty much obvious now it's going to all be behind closed doors. And listening to what you said as players about atmosphere, you've got the atmosphere to get you up and stuff like that. How do you feel our sort of more technical team would be suited for behind closed doors matches than, say, just because they were referred earlier, a Nottingham Forest type of team?
That's a good question. I think it's going to be the same for both. If there's no fans, it's going to be so strange. So strange. So the first game is going to be really strange, and it's just a case of us motivating ourselves, which we will, because of the position we're in. We will undoubtedly motivate ourselves, and us coaching staff, that we've got a massive responsibility to make sure the players are up for it as well. And we will do that as much as we can. But there's no two ways. It's going to be a strange situation. So the first game is going to be really, really interesting to see how things go, and then we need to learn off that really quickly and see what works for us, and make sure we do that for the remaining 8 games, I think, if they're all going to be behind closed doors. But like I say, it's the same for every team. So it's not a concern, so to speak, but it's something we need to be very much aware of and see what we can learn from the first game to make sure we can maximise the last 8 games if that happens.
Someone just said here that perhaps we should play recorded noise over the tannoy of the home crowd. Is that something you would think would be useful? Or?
Obviously, I don't think you'll be able to do that, but if you could, I think it definitely would be helpful. With the home advantage and all that sort of stuff, I think all those little bits really do make a difference.
We really do. Won't tell anybody we're going to do that. All right. Thanks so much, Kev. Thanks so much, Sam. It's been an absolute pleasure. Next week we've got Andy Scott on, so he's keen to come on and talk about his time. So that should be fun. And just to say, our usual thanks to all the NHS staff and key workers that are working so hard doing something that I could never do. So thank you very much.
Yep.
That's about it really. So thanks, guys, and see you next week.
All right, cheers, guys. See you later.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for everything.
Cheers. Bye.